Hello, hello. How's it going, everybody? It's another Tuesday. I mean, at this point, I'm gonna stop being annoyed, I guess. All my Elgato stuff, it works when it wants to work, and it works nice when it works. But I feel like every time I stream, I have to turn everything off and on again, which is just annoying. Anyways, we are going. Today we are. This was suggested by, I think it was John. Kind of to do an exploration of the different ways we can use Rust as a web server. There's a couple frameworks or libraries. I guess we'll kind of see how we could potentially classify them. Framework being more holistic, whereas the library would be a little bit more focused, and it's a spectrum, so there's only so much value in giving it a specific label. But anyways, digression aside, we're gonna look at a couple different web, like Rust web servers. Maybe do their like getting started page or getting started like tutorial guide thing, and just sort of see how they feel. Let's turn down the music just a little bit here. We have a couple queued up here. I'm gonna flip right over right here. There is Axum. We'll see how well I remember it because I put it in the description down below. Axum, Tide. Really? Can I not remember? I have like 2 or 3 of them there. Can I see the description from here? Whatever. We'll get to it one at a time. We were the past streamer or 2 playing with a library called Request, in which you can use it to make requests. I believe generally via HTTP. We'll leave it at that. That's what we played with, HTTP part of it. If it can do more, then we didn't touch on that. But as part of that, we started getting to the async side of Rust, which is something that I hadn't personally explored too much. And in that, Tokyo seems to sort of be the leading library to use is when you're getting into async within Rust. There's been a couple other, I don't know if experimental is the right word, but there's been a few other libraries or pushes to sort of standardize the pattern and get it into the standard library itself. Async standard, I believe, was one of those. But Tokyo still seems to be the big one. That being said, with Tokyo is a little bit more like an ecosystem. And I believe it has Axum, yes. So I think that's probably going to be the first one that we're going to look at. Tower and Hyper. Oh, interesting. So Tower was one of those. Excuse me. Tower is one of those that I had kind of imagined that we might want to look at using. But it looks like it uses Axum. Looks like it uses Tower, which also has support for a couple of other Warp and Hyper. Those are these are other crates that I recognize. And part of it is ecosystem needs to sort of develop over time and mature. And some of these I heard when they were, or checked them out when they were first getting started, like Hyper and Warp, I think were two that I definitely recognize. How old is this one? 22 versions. Can we see? Yeah, okay, so this one's been around a while. But these are a little bit more low level. Doesn't mean you can't use them. They even mention it here though. If you're looking for a convenient HTTP server, then you may wish to consider Axum. Also, Request is built on top of that. I actually did not know that. Warp was another one that I recognized, and this is also built on top of Hyper. Interesting. Cool. So all of that being said, Cube. Interesting. A Rust client for Kubernetes. Nifty. So it has support for these third-party libraries. And then Tower or Axum is using, or it can take full advantage of the Tower middleware services and utilities. So is Tower really more of a middleware? Okay, I guess. Yeah. So Axum is going to be a big one that we take a look at. That actually has a integration with Leptos, which was another library that we explored 2 streams ago now, I think. Leptos being Rust for the front end. You might recognize some HTML-ish or HTML-esque syntax there. Do they specifically say anything? Yeah, so cargo leptos and our starter templates for Actix or Axum. So I think there's, I wouldn't call it a built-in assumption, but there's some expectation that you may use leptos with Axum. So that's sort of a callback to if you want to see our exploration around leptos, go ahead and check out that past stream. So Axum is a big one. That one of which we'll likely take a look at today. This was not what I was expecting. Actix is another one. Actix RS, and I think I put that one down below. So this is, let's look at the GitHub. Actix team, okay. I want to see code. Actix. Caught it that time, the cough. So Actix is another option. Is that built on something? So full Tokyo compatibility, but it's not specifically put out. It's not under Tokyo RS, which is fine. It's just something to keep in mind. I thought this was built on top of something, though. I guess maybe not. So this is building. These are the routes, and this has the. I always forget what this is. Drive. Async function. So we're binding to local host. I guess it's specific. It doesn't actually like specifically have an explicit wiring it up. So it all sort of happens through this syntax, I guess. Which I don't dislike. It is pretty different than this, though. Tide is another one. Tide RS. And I think Tide was one of those that pushed more on the async standard rather than using Tokyo. And it has sort of similar syntax to Tokyo or to Axum. And it seems to have a fair number of other traits that are namespace to Tide. So this is one that we can try out. There is, let's see, Rust web servers. Rocket is another one. We did this. We did this finding web servers like a stream or two ago. Rust, are we web yet? I think this site could open. No. This has a list of web servers on here. So we want to look at not clients. What's Node.js? Ah, okay, yep. So this would be, I should have just jumped away. I recognized it immediately. These are all a bunch of libraries that using Rust you can write Rust and ship it kind of contained within within a Node server or Node backend or potentially Node frontend. I guess no. All within Node.js. I guess that makes sense. Because the sort of front end part of it is. This is actually what I wanted to look for. I'm not sure where it would be, but like Wasm bindgen, or anything that like packages it up as Wasm and ships it, would sort of be the front end part of it. Which I guess maybe this is the place to go. Like Leptos, you'll get a Wasm bundle on the front end. So here's we looked at a couple of these: Actix Web, Gotham. Express.js inspired web framework. Thruster, a middleware. A middleware based. What makes it middleware based? So Warp. That was one that I mentioned that we recognized, but Warp works with Tower, or Axum works with Tower, which works with Warp. Wow, that's a lot of. So I don't, and like these download numbers end up being a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit, not distracting, but words are apparently hard today. Words are hard. Wow, I can't think of the word. I wouldn't trust the downloads number too much. Like I wouldn't say 12 million is greater than 174K. I'm just gonna choose this Actix web over Gotham. Some of those download numbers come from the fact that it was established before other things, and like Warp is an older one. Axum, I believe, is I believe Axum is newer, and it has more downloads. But I wouldn't specifically write anything off just because it has a smaller number of downloads. So let's take a look at those. Do we go to all of them? Tide, Thruster, Warp, Poem, and Salvo. We'll take a look at all of them. I doubt we're specifically going to get to everything today. I think Axum is definitely going to be one that we want to try, and I kind of want to try Tide. And I think Actix Web is probably the other big one. From there, we'll see a little bit. But if we looked at Axum already. We do this. Is this a builder pattern? I can never remember the names of these patterns. We build up an app. This feels a little bit like Express.js if you have used it. You build up an app, and then you serve. You call it the serve function. Create a user. Where's create a user? Ah, here. Yep. And you're calling a get and a post to designate how to treat those routes. And then calling this specific function. So there's a little bit of explicitness about this that I kind of like, where create users can pretty easily be mapped to, you can map those back and forth. Michael, yes, Rust, heart. Why like is that a medical heart? Interesting choice of hearts. Also, the emoji representation up there is sort of amusing. Okay, so Axum. Tide is kind of in the same vein where you set up an app and then you call. I'm guessing you just have a bunch of routes like this. And you could probably like stick this into that. I wonder. But it looks like Tide and Axum have it feels like a similar API surface. Big difference being Axum is, I'm presuming the big difference is going to be Axum is more Tokyo based and Tide is more async standard based. Actix Web has this derived syntax, which I don't know. I'm curious how they scale. I kind of like, my gut says that something like this or something like this scales better. But I guess maybe as we get into like nested routes, that might be the thing that we want to try, is like how nested routes sort of come together. All right, let's look at, let's see, thruster. Rocket is probably the next big one from here. Rocket has very similar syntax to Actix Web, which I vaguely recall there's a reason for that. Vaguely. They're not related in any way, are they? Doesn't seem like it. But we sort of have this like similar macro derived type syntax. Oh yeah, Rocket's been around for a while, hasn't it? 3 years ago. So 2016 would put it at like 7 years. So it's been around for a little bit. Not quite as long as some of these others, but for a little bit. Let's see, where do we go from here? Probably self a powerful and simple web server framework in Rust world. Thruster, nickel. I guess if we check out this, if we're strictly looking at download numbers, nickel, thruster. So thruster is still pretty small. I am curious about a middleware base though. What does that look like? Warp, I don't know how much I'm keen on doing warp, but Poem is actually has a fair number of downloads. I had sort of mentally moved it over. Let's look at them in this order. So Poem. What does Poem look like? Poem for AWS Lambda. That's sort of interesting. Now we don't have any code snippets here, because we could look at the examples. GRCP, interesting. So this appears to be Tokyo, sort of Tokyo based. This OpenAI, or not OpenAI, Open API. Open API for Poem Web. Poem Web. Okay. Okay. So Open API is more back-endy API type framework rather than specifically in the vein of So rather in the vein of a more like serve assets type web framework, this is more API, and it looks like okay. You will see the Swagger UI that contains these API definitions. So it seems to be that it's sort of built with the expectation that you write this, and then you kind of get some of this open API stuff for free. That's how I'm reading it, which is neat. I don't mind that. Which might be something what we want to keep in mind, but I think as far as experimenting today, we care more about sort of call it the default web server. Is there a little bit of lag? I feel like my FPS is low. This monitor that I'm looking at used to be plugged in over DisplayPort, but then the DisplayPort just stopped working, I think. I'm not quite sure what the deal is. I've tried it with multiple cords and multiple computers. Feels weird that that port would just die, but right now I swapped back to HDMI, which has a lower refresh rate, and I can't tell if it's just me or if it's me sensing it through that, or if it's actually like stuttery on your end. So let me know. Anyways, so it's got a bunch of gated features, which is fine. We have a handler, and we kind of do this at thing as well, which is similar to what Actix, yep. Oh no, Tide, excuse me. And we are starting up a server listener for each route. Okay. And like, what's interesting about this is it's hard to, like, if I was making a choice between this and Actix, strictly just kind of looking at the readmes, I guess, or no, excuse me, Tide. They're both async standard expectation, right? Or was that Tokyo? Oh, Tokyo, okay. Where did I see async standard on this? Tokyo, but more async standard. So I mean, I guess you could sort of filter, slice up your options based on if I'm going to use async standard versus Tokyo, which may or may not actually be decided when you're starting this new project with, or working with an existing project and pulling one of these in. I mean, that being said, like, this doesn't feel all that different. Like, going back and forth between these, what's going to make me choose one over the other? I think it's going to end up coming back down to, like, how often do they commit? So this is something to take a gander at. Nickel has a fair number of downloads, but it seems like it's not being given as much attention anymore. So like, this syntax is similar enough-ish to the other syntaxes. It seems that they're currently working on async, or were. $13.9. What are they on then? So like, it kind of feels like this would be one that I would just say, well, there's other options out here that seem to be given more attention. If there's no deep benefit to using it, how is it being maintained sort of ends up being the dictating factor, it seems, for better or worse. Okay, so thruster. This was the one that says it's quote middleware based. What does middleware based mean? So we have a middleware function, and you've got this M macro from thruster. So it's use thruster M. Kind of assumed, but it was worth checking. Starting the server. Set 404. That feels a little bit awkward. But what we're doing is we're giving it this macro and giving middleware function. So we're using the derive and syntax in this macro to handle things. And four. Nice. And we've got the middleware next, middleware result. So how does it know /plaintext? So we're awaiting profile and we're awaiting plaintext. So now would that be /plaintext/profile? Or is it more of a pipe? Like it goes into profile, then it then follows up with plaintext. Whoa, excuse me. I think it's the latter. So you're kind of like creating a pipe where you're chaining these things together. Which I don't mind. It would be interesting to see how some of these deal with middleware. I mean, if you're implementing everything yourself, I don't feel like middleware has a strong of a pull. But I think middleware starts to become more interesting when you have libraries that handle all the auth for you. It's easy. It feels easier to just drop in a middleware like within this like stack of this request stack. All the middlewares basically end up building up all the context and handling all the auth stuff for you. Very good. Ooh. That was a back crack. I suppose I should have said something I should mute. Does that weird you out? Lots of things crack on me. Okay, so thruster. Oh, thruster was what we were looking at, not POM. I clicked back to POM. So thruster is the thing that we're like chaining together these middlewares essentially, where all the things are middlewares. And I don't really see any indication of how we handle code gen testing. Interesting. I don't see any other things mentioning, other libraries mentioning what it looks like to do middleware. So this one's interesting that it says 1, 2, and 3. I thought 3 was sort of like macro-free API. I actually feel like that is kind of a selling point. I don't dislike macros, but it seems to sort of complicate the stack. So if they are able to have a clean API without relying on macros, I kind of feel like I would lean more towards that. So like this says 1 and 2 specifically. I'm kind of assuming though that like it's just assumed at this point, and like high level features, I'm guessing they just don't mention it. So I'm not gonna write it off that one is better than the other based on like this. So this one does actually specifically say something about middleware, which is nice. Response.render. Interesting. I guess there's no... So like if we look at Axum, what is that doing? Okay. Create user. So get root. All right. So it's. I guess if all you're really delivering is a string, having like a specific render function isn't built into the web. The web server like framework probably isn't that big of a value add. Chainable routing system. I don't mind that. We're gonna have to look at what the other ones look like. We might come back to Solvo just to see how they are handling some of it, because I kind of do like this like chaining. Okay, nice. They're not trying to be everything, which is not a bad thing. Async everything, so they're using Tokyo with hyper for stringly typed HTTP. Stringly. Huh. Okay. What does the code look like? Learning. API documentation? Let's look at the examples. Code. Here we go. Tests, interesting. Okay, so listening for requests. Oh, interesting. So say hello. Okay, so this is returning at the root. What does some routes look like? Routing. What does routing look like? Oh my, okay. Yeah, let's look at the introduction. What does our routing look like? I have a feeling this is going to be some unique routing. So router. So we add a router. I mean, I can see it. Come on. Come over here. Kitty is looking green screen again. Come on up. Say hi to the stream. Let's keep that tail down now. I don't need that tail on my face. I think I moved my camera up a little bit. Is it a little bit taller than? Can't see her. She is on my lap. Okay. All right, we've done enough exploring. Let's check out some code real quick. And I think we are going to call it a day there. Bless you, kitty. Do I have a... I'm pretty sure I have a Rust playground in here. It feels reasonable to put it in there. Rust cache, Rust playground. It's been a hot minute since I pushed to it. Oh, yeah, this is like going around with Rust things and whatnot. That's fine. Git clone. All right. We are going to do mkdir rustlings. Move all to rustlings. Let's see if I got that syntax right. There we go. What do we call this? Web servers? Just web server? Web servers? See web servers. I don't mind that. Empty list. Let's not open up the code yet here. Do we have any like quick getting started things? We're gonna try Axum, then we're gonna try Axum and Actix, I guess, and then Tide maybe. I think that'll give us a good good starting off point here. So let's do mkdir Axum cd ax. Oof. And open that up. And we'll just grab their cargo toml. Touch cargo.toml and touch src main.rs. So now it actually creates a folder for me? No, I guess not. Okay. Paste that in there. You can start doing your thing. Just fetching the grace.io. It's not going to do any bundling yet. But this is what I want. Let's go ahead and grab this. So this is run, not Rust. Interesting. So run with that. We have tracing subscriber. Interesting. I kind of do like that they have the tracing built in here. Okay. I kind of dig this. What are we complaining about here? Failed to load workspaces. Web server Axum. Cargo.toml. So if we do cargo check. Failed to get Axum. Ah. I don't know if I'm gonna need features or not. So we're gonna leave it with this syntax version. Yeah, sure, we'll go with it. I do want to put it on a specific version. That'll make it a little bit easier to deal with here. I don't have a default formatter anymore. Frustrating. Okay. Okay, now we're getting some cargo check and such down here, and fun. So this expects me to be running it directly from here. And cannot find function serve and create Axum. Okay. That's sort of annoying. This is like the default example here. If we look at, let's grab this. I'm assuming that, wow, okay. So the usage example on the main page is not right. That feels awkward. Okay, well, that leads me to believe that I do need some specific features. Community high-level features, not those kind of features. I want to know feature flags. Okay. So, like, I mean, this is kind of nice. There's situations where I might not actually care about those or need those, so it's nice that I don't have to, like, that I'm not required. Okay, so JSON is a default. HTTP1 is a default. Oh, and these are defaults as well. Hyper, Tokyo, and Tower. Do I need to pull in Hyper? Hi, come on. Okay, the full feature for Hyper and Tokyo isn't strictly necessary. So do add serve function and remove server export. Is this serve function something that is new and yet unreleased? So this doesn't actually have Hyper listed in it. I was not expecting the example to just straight up not work. So the main branch is unpublished breaking changes. In preparation for Axum.0.7, main branch currently is unpublished breaking changes. Okay. So we could go back here. Maybe we can just copy this instead. I can't imagine that we are going to have too much difference. Okay. There we go. That was the difference. Because we are on version 6. So we were copying examples. And I just did not. I just went straight to the examples. Didn't see the big thing that says don't use this because main branch things. Okay. Now if we do a check, yeah, unused import, that's fine. Guess we'll take that out just to make you happy. So if we do, I guess we just need to do like a cargo run here. This should give us, so this is running the server with Hyper, and it's re-exporting the server. we have a route and a post, so we can go to the main route, which is served at address localhost 3000. So if now we go to localhost 3000, here we go, we got the hello world. So if we would want to do something like the post stuff, yeah, okay, that's nice, that's fine. Yeah, so it's just sort of returning a dummy response. The thing that I'm curious about though is how do we do nested routes? And what does that look like? Let's actually check out OAuth real quick, because I think that might give us some indication on how it is handling middleware type situations. So like here, we have a route, auth Discord, auth, wow, auth authorized. Come on, kitty. No. Okay, so we've got let's clear it again. I got distracted here. Words. Okay. Stop. Come on. Kitty. Come on up. I tell ya. All right. She licks my green screen. I think it's for attention. Maybe. I keep looking over here because this is where my chat is. It used to be on this monitor because reasons, and now I only have one monitor. I wish stuff would just work. Anyways, okay, so we have an example. This would be Axum 0.6. We have a route with a get and a post. It is using and re-exporting Hyper to host this server at localhost 3000. So this is a localhost address, and this is the port 3000. And if we run this, after it compiles, we get a hello world. Nice. So now the other thing that we want to double check on is like nested routes. They have, in this example, slash get index slash auth slash discord, goes to discord auth, and then an login authorized, which is auth slash authorized, and a protected route. It goes through OAuth client, it does some redirect stuff. Index protected. Log out, log in. So this is doing a fair amount of work in here. And we are handling it with nice, okay. Hi, kitty. Yes. Thank you. So it sets up a client and puts it into the app state. And it adds it to the app, which is interesting. I guess that's kind of how they do the app state is sort of how they do the middleware. I don't mind it. I don't mind that. Okay. So nested routes. Nested routes. Let's see if we can find some nested routes and wildcard routes, if we have any examples of that. I don't know if you can hear Kitty purring right now. She is on my lap. Hi, yes. Okay. Too much loving. Getting hair everywhere. Making my face itchy. I'm gonna be covered in fur after this, aren't I? Static file server. Oh, okay. We don't need a file server, but this might give us some indication on how the routing works. So serve. Serve is binding to port. We are serving app layer, trace layer. Listener. Bind address. Serve. Where's the main function here? So Tokyo join. Now I feel like I got hair everywhere. And are these on different ports? That's pretty neat. I don't have a specific use case for it, but it's kind of nifty. Okay. Router new nest service. Serve the file in the access directory under it. So they've got a specific served. I'm curious what this nest service is. Do we set up a bunch of like services and then nest them together, and that's how? Is that how we handle nested routing? Okay, let's look at the docs real quick. I do want to get to another one or two, so I don't want to take too much time here. If we look at routing, paths which go to services, sure. See this for more details. Okay, captures. So they got static paths, which is what we've kind of looked at. Then there's captures. Captures can be extracted using path. Here. So if we do this, it's going to be a bit of a bespoke example, I guess, but it's fine. We don't actually need all these bits, but we do want. I don't need you open. I don't know why you're still open. We do need this bit. I'm gonna use it to replace this. I didn't really need that in there in the first place. So route users, user ID, team ID. We can then return a can we do a format maybe? So a hello user ID with team ID and user ID and team ID. Oh, yep, macro. No code actions, eh? Expected that found a string. need to import this. Import path from Axum. Okay, so UUID is just straight away from. I mean, fine, whatever. We're just gonna give it strings anyways. So, mismatch types expected. This. So this is a static. We need to. We are saying we're going to return a static string. If I do something like this and say, hey, I want the return to be so if I return a string, is it okay with that? That's the, I guess, the question here. Self and get. What is get expecting? Get also it doesn't specifically say. I think I'm just gonna be okay with that for right now. So it is running, it has refreshed. We have now added an endpoint at /users/id/team/id, and it says ID, but it's actually not an ID anymore, but that's fine. So if we go to /users /Fred/team/boop. Fred is on the boop team. Users, user ID, team ID. It is running. So I think I just said string team / okay, numbers work. It's coming in as a string, so if I do that, okay, well, now it's working. Oh, there we go. Okay. So we can do like these, the wildcard routes. We can do nested routes, like static nested routes. And I'm assuming as we build it up, it's going to be checking in this order. So it's going to try to hit this route. Well, no, that wouldn't make sense because it would always hit this route first. So there's some prioritization coming on. I'm guessing deeper specificity wins, and we could then have something like hello. This is using the same function, which is fine. It's going to end up giving us the same hello. Do I really have to stop and restart it every time? That's sort of annoying. It's fine. No. Hello world. There we go. So with Axum, we can use this syntax to make static routes or routes with this splat. I've heard they use the term, they have this path extractor, and you can use it to extract these parameters. Nice. Of which you can also type them. Pretty nice, pretty nice. Now, let's bounce over to I'm gonna go ahead and close these tabs. We're not gonna get to some of these other ones. Let's try Actix and Tide. I think anything else, Rocket sort of feels like some of the other ones, as do a few of these other smaller or less downloaded libs. But I think that between these two, we're going to get a little bit of feel for this and a little bit of feel for this, but slightly different, and ASIC standard. So it's where we're going to get a good taste of kind of the big options that you might use to actually like filter your choices. Yeah, let's try those out, and then we are going to call it a day. The Axum can be killed. We are going to go up a folder level. We are going to make dir an Actix web folder and go into it. I am going to open up that in code as well. I really should just like uninstall D2 or disable it, because I only use it in a very small amount of projects. Do we have a simple WebSocket? Okay, I appreciate that. SQLite integration. Try not to get too distracted. It's running a separate client. Okay, cool. Basic setup. Application state, JSON handling. What's application state look like? Oh, hey, how's it going? I'll say mayhem, because I don't know if you want me to say your other pseudonyms on stream. What are these timestamps for these? Can I see timestamps? Toggle timestamps. That was a few minutes ago. Okay, I didn't miss it too badly. Yeah, we played games together back in the day. Okay. State. That's what we're looking at. This has state attached to it, which seems to be sort of the indicator on, or way you can do middlewares. Because they don't specifically say like, does it even actually mention middlewares anywhere? Middlewares, okay. This one does specifically say middlewares. Okay, so it does actually specifically say middlewares. So this has some built-in expectation of middleware. Interesting. Okay. Huh. I don't know if I'm terribly keen on how they're doing the middleware there, because you have to do all this wrapping stuff. I don't know. I think if I would look towards something with middlewares, or middlewares as an API, I do kind of, now that I've looked at all of the options, I mean macros. But like, this kind of works with my brain. I don't mind that. I'm also kind of monitoring chat on the far screen now, because I just don't have enough screens. And it keeps putting itself to sleep. Okay. let us come back to Actix. We are going to, we want to find an example that has nested routes. So like what if we, I'm going to open a different tab. Favicon, Favicon, right? So this has got the gets. It's got this derived syntax. And you register each of these as routes. Oh. Really? So we're doing middleware by calling a wrap. And I guess that means that you have middleware on everything. So like if I do this logger here, it's on everything. Then we do .service to set up all these routes. Static files redirect and then a default. Interesting. 2 workers. So with the path parameters, this just feels really verbose. And it seems to be that web get to response body. What, does this show up even? Or are they just doing it in line? There's a welcome, there's a default handler, response body. Okay, alright, so response body. So you can either do this like, you can do it this way or you can do it with the other syntax, I'm guessing. Which I think if I would go with, I think one of the things that would make me choose this would be the like derived syntax. They don't have it on here either. Like this feels nice. You do have to do the .service greet. But I don't mind this. I think this feels nice for like getting something up. It's hard to say without using these deeper, but my gut says that this is nice for like small little server, small surface area, like API surface area. Not like their library, but like you're only gonna have a couple routes. This feels really readable and easy to get going. I kind of feel like these other patterns that you see in Axum or Tide, they feel a bit more like they scale better. And it seems like this doesn't scale, in which case you fall back to the other syntax anyways, so like why don't I just start with that syntax? Yeah, I mean, I think the more that I think about it, I don't mind this, but I don't know that I would want to start a project and then have to like switch at some point in the future. Interesting that those dependencies seem really clean. Cargo.toml and touch src main rs. And I think I've got a code window open already. Yep. So I'm going to drop that in there. We're going to drop this in here. So let's do 2 routes. We're going to do one route with this with that syntax. I need to like. It's hard to like get it perfectly. That's not in front of my face. That right there. We're gonna use that syntax. And then I think we try adding in another route with the other syntax. Okay, so you don't like it. Why don't we like it? Cargo check. This virtual manifest specifies the pennies section, which is not allowed. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Let's go with examples, basics. I just need a basic. See, the downside of these like example repos is that they get all this. Like, I can't copy and paste this. At least I don't think I can, because this is it's in a workspace. So they're doing this, which makes it easier for them to maintain. I get why they're doing it, because then it pulls out of here instead. One version. But it makes it really hard to like pull out and just like play with the thing. Like the reason, I mean, the examples are nice to see as a way to, like, how can I do this thing? Let me just give me a code snippet so I can just try it real quick, or see how it's put together, and that may be a better, faster option than reading docs. Constant context and person dependent, obviously, but yeah. See, all of these examples too are not. They're not using that like derived syntax, so I don't know if it's just that it's newer or what. But this just seems really verbose, and I'm not terribly keen on it. So, nice. We've got a whole bunch of they have a whole bunch of examples, but also links to repos that are also using it, which is nice. All right. Can I get started? So it's saying use cargo new. Okay. Cargo new. I think I can do this. Yeah, cargo. Okay. Cargo net. Cargo in it. I don't really need to get ignore in here. Okay, so this should then allow us to do a cargo check. There we go. Okay. So this is the derive syntax. I'm curious what it's going to do when we visit that URL, but we don't have an actual parameter there. Let's give that a shot real quick. If we take this code and we run it and we don't give it a name, what is that going to give us? So if we do a cargo run, we should be able to just straight away run it from this directory. It's going to take a minute for it to load at port 8080. So we will go to localhost 8080 as that is finishing up here. And we don't actually have a home page. That makes sense. If we go to hello, we are also not getting anything. There we go. So we got, I mean, not that there's too much there. We have to have a name entered in within these parameters for Actix Web. Now the next thing that we want to check out is there's this syntax where we're saying service greet, but then all of the, like, literally all of the other examples are using this. Let's go to like basics here. Basics, static main. Everything else is using this syntax where they do like this. So web resource, async body. But this is also async, so hello again. And it's going to route to response body. But we can say it actually no, route to greet. And it should, is it gonna give us the, okay. No bueno. Which is fine. Response body is here, and I'm just gonna go ahead and copy that whole thing. We have, okay, so this is streaming, which is fine. Now, if you do streaming, is this like a requirement? We're just gonna do the ugly thing and paste this all in here. Session this. Oof. Okay. All right. Sure. Did I just like delete everything? Okay. Sure, we'll just do it this way. Whoop, whoop. Really? No code actions available? Stream. Stream. Async stream from stream. Okay. Okay, so I need stream. Async stream 3.0. Grab this, drop this here. Go gadget. Async stream. Cool. Where's this coming from? And I don't need IO. All right, so it's streaming. This is streaming. I don't know if it's a requirement. I don't know if it's a requirement here. But the difference, the main difference that I'm just playing around with here is that we have this greet with a derive type syntax here. Then we also have this web resource with a dot route. Interesting. I'm actually kind of curious if we throw another one on there. Hello, more. Interesting. That's a very interesting chaining going on here. I don't know if it's specifically built in that if we want to do this like streaming API, if we have to do it this way, but we have basically the two APIs here. I don't know if we need to refresh, but let's go ahead and do that. So if we do hello again, seems we might need to refresh here, which is fine. There we go. And hello more. So chat more. We have here Actix Web with the two different types of APIs to define routes. We have this happens to be a streaming example, but it uses this .service .route, whereas here we've got just a .service pointing to this function which has a derive and all the parameters. I don't mind the syntax, and it seems that we can this type syntax might scale better, but you can kind of mix and match them, and well, this is a little bit verbose. The ability to mix and match and have many this way might be worth it. So that would be Actix Web. Last but not least, let's go to Tide and give that a shot real quick, and then I think we're going to call it a day. I'm just making sure I don't got any kind of hero messages here that I need to respond to. Okay. Should be fine. All right. The last thing that we're gonna look at here is Tide. This one has a little bit of a similar API to I guess both of them, because Actix Web kind of has this syntax too, but I would say that maybe functionally the main difference is async standard versus Tokyo. So let's go ahead and get actually I should leave it open. We can do a little bit of a comparison at the end. Go up, go cargo. Actually, here, let's try this. Cargo, new, Tide. CD Tide. And open that up. So now I don't have to do these other little bits here. And Tide's example, we need Tide async standard and Saturday. Saturday is a rather common library if you are unfamiliar with it. So it looks like 16 might be the so 17 is a beta release. This one seems to be less. It seemed like it had a lot of attention for a good bit there. Yeah. And then maybe not so much anymore. I mean, they're clearly still working on it on the main branch months ago. But that does give me a little bit of hesitation. And, well, I wonder if some of it is that it feels a bit like the async standard work has lost steam a little bit, I guess. GitHub. You can see a little bit of the last year, 4 months ago, 8 months ago. Last year, started licenses 5 years ago, 4 years ago. These were all touched 3 months ago. There's a little bit of a parallels there. And haha, look at that. Josh Triplet. So if you're choosing to do async standard, Tide seems to be the way to go. There seems to be a bit of a connection there. I want to say that one sort of brought forth the work on the other. But that's definitely something to consider. I'm not going to say write any of it off, but keep it in mind when you are choosing which web framework you want to use. And we can kind of go over that a little bit in the conclusions, I guess. The API here, we get a mute app with a route. This is actually a post, interesting, to order shoes. And it returns Tide results. I like this API, I gotta admit. This feels nice. So if we just look like at the hello, there's a get, and you can just straight up return. I don't know if you can chain. Let's actually look at that here, nested route. Oh, I do really like this API. I like it. So this gives us we can do app dot for each of these like URLs. And nest, let mute API. Tide new. That must be like the, yeah. I like that. Because this feels like something you can, that feels like a nice abstraction point. So you could do some interesting things, I think, with the nesting. And we might want to double back and check out how Axum is doing it. But we could do some nice things with the nesting in splitting up our files, which I do appreciate. Let's check if we want to do like parameters or something like that. Cookies, what's chunked? So this is streaming API, some app.with, so some middleware usage here. Tide log middleware new. I'm actually going to drop that in here, just so we get a little bit of an additional taste of things. And Tide with print panic. Nice. Nice. So what I want to what I'm looking for an example of is the splats, or parameters. This one does have a fair number of like other little integrations and such, which is handy. So this strictly just posts, and it's doing a request to body JSON await. So I think if you would visit that page, it's not going to straight up work unless you literally post to it. Here, they have an example to curl. So we could do that. Now, if we do... Let's just try it. Let's see how it feels. If we have a function, we're going to say async. So this is just returning API. We'll say API / chat. Now I don't know. This is sort of a little bit morbid. Oh, we're gonna go with that. Although not now that that's in my head, it's, you know. Okay, the get post. So if we do a get, I can just say async function chat, and we're gonna say mute request. Let's just copy to paste in this. We're going to take this little thing just so we can get a return. Okay, here my keyboard. .into. Okay. Function chat is never used. I can put it here, and now it's being used. So it's saying request is not used, and we can say request dot. What are our options here? Into, append. Man, these like overlapping things. Here, body string, content. Is there like a parameters? That's the thing that I'm kind of curious about here. This needs to stop going away. Okay. Extension. Get an HTTP header. Host into converts this type into an input. Header method peer query. So that will give us query parameters. Parameter. Now this would be okay. So like here we've got a hello, and then we got a splat, and then a get. So this would do request.parameters, which I think is what we want. Because then we could say chat slash friend, and the key would then be friend, and we're gonna say let friend equal this. We should be able to just unwrap this, but I'm kind of curious what their example has. Unwrap or. Okay, all right, I like that. Dot unwrap or, and with the or we can set a default. And I think we just say friend. So we're going to look up the parameter based off of this. And oh, nice. We're going to fall back to friend. So if we don't specify a value there, then we're just going to fall back and use the default. All right, let's give this a run. We've got whoa. Stay there. Okay, we have this is tied with nested routes, a root route. We tossed in a logger, and there's a post that we're probably not going to play with, but we also have this splat or wildcard parameter type URL, and if we visit either of these, we're going to get strings just directly sent back. Everything is default async, and if we use this chat API/API/chat, we can either do it'll default to returning hello friend, or it will use whatever value we pass in. So let's go ahead and run this. We will come over here. Oh, let's check the port. We are running this at 8080. So we need to go to localhost 8080. It has finished compiling. We are at the root. If we go to /API/ I believe it was hello, we get the hello world. There's also the goodbye version, but that's fine. And if we go to chat, we don't get anything. Okay, that's what I was curious about. And we're going to say chat. Hello, chat. It would have been nice if this unwrap or would have actually given us, like, allowed this to be optional. Does that work? Would that work? I don't know if that would work. Probably not. Right. We're just guessing at syntax here. Let's look at their docs real quick. Param, I believe it was. Request param. So here it has a splat. So there's a query. We can do extract and parse a route parameter by name. The name should not include the leading that or trailing. Oh, interesting. So you can do something like this. So if I don't give it a key, it looks like it requires a key. Parameter name. It does seem to indicate, though, that we can use let's try that. It does seem to indicate that we can use that. Here, chat. And if we say friend, hello friend, and if we say friends, it still says friend. Okay. So all of the go away. I want this. This allows us to match like any endpoint here. And the parameter is the key here. But we're actually getting this unwrap OR. So if we don't have that same key, then it uses the unwrap OR. That's interesting. I assume there's some way to do like wildcards on some of these, and like get the actual value back. But I think that might be an experiment for another time. I want to say that we've hit everything that I think is kind of worth hitting on. I wanted to look at Axum real quick to see how they handle. We did some splat stuff right here. If we look back at this, Axum has this. And if we do, yeah, so it's got this path extracting thing, which then allows you to type it. That's nice. I mean, I do kind of like it. Because you could then do something like this where we'd have to change the get, but you could do this, and that'll give you the team for like a default route. I like it. So let's go back and do a real quick tour here of the different options. We have Axum. Axum was the first one that we looked at. It has this builder pattern, which feels, I guess, a bit like Express.js if you've used that library before, in the JavaScript Node.js side of things. This expects you to use, or is built on top of Tokyo, so that would be the ecosystem that you're subscribing to, which helps you handle async, and it has this like knife path extractor to get these parameters, which is cool. And then we also looked at Actix Web. This one has similar syntax if you so choose to use it. There's the service web resource, and then you can do a .route. So a little bit similar syntax, but they also have this derive pattern that you can use that seems to support similar. I don't know if it supports all of the same things, but this is kind of nice. I kind of don't mind it, but everything else about this feels more verbose. Possible trade-off, though also built on top of Tokyo, I believe. They don't actually call it anywhere, but that's a little bit deeper integrated. And then we have Tide. Tide is built on top of async standard, and they seem to sort of be working off of each other, async standard and Tide. And there's some nice features that I like about this API, including the nesting, and there's the get and this logging middleware .with. I like that syntax. And some of these, like pulling out the parameters and whatnot, feels very much Express.js, I guess. I'm a little bit less sold on that, but I do like all of the syntax, and this feels like good extension points where you could pull out pieces of your routing into separate files, and I like that. I do like this API overall. Now the thing to think about with with these three that we've tried, Axum and Actix Web are all built on top of Tokyo. So if we, let's actually just pull Actix Web. Docs. Code. Actix Web. Here we go. Right? Tokyo compatibility. So I think if you're doing any async with Actix Web, it's not really built on top of Tokyo. Maybe that's the wrong way to say it. If you're doing any async, you're likely going to be relying on Tokyo. So Actix Web and Axum are more so tied to Tokyo. Axum is also part of the Tokyo team. So this is probably going to be worked on more in parallel with anything developed in Tokyo. So the compatibility, Axum with Tokyo, I suspect is going to be easier on downstream users to deal with and maintain, theoretically. And then the last one would be Tide. Tide is async standard. And again, you have those async standard and Tide seem to be kind of being developed hand in hand. So if you're in this ecosystem, this might be a choice. But also, it seems like a smaller contributor base and or less attention. Tokyo's kind of a heavyweight. It's kind of a heavyweight in the space especially as far as async goes. So how much do you want to paddle against Stream? That is also a choice. But I think these are probably going to be the three big web servers in Rust that you might want to consider choosing between. And many of them are built on top of the lower level pieces such as Tokyo Tower and Hyper, or Tokyo/async standard. So hopefully this was helpful. We kind of went over the top three plus looked at a few more. It kind of feels like, for multiple reasons, Axum would be I don't know if I would call it my default choice, but maybe maybe the easy choice would be the way that I would qualify it. It has some familiar API surface area for me, and it has the Tokyo ecosystem, and it's built on top of some other rather popular ecosystems as well, including compatibility with it, as well as you have a decent contributor base, which I think is going to be something to consider. So I think in looking at everything here, I think Axum is going to be the winner because for all those points. I'm not going to say right off the other options, and I definitely always will appreciate or push for other experimentation in any space. But I think my easy choice right now would be Axum if I was making that choice. Is there any other questions? Oh, sorry. Man, this my monitor keeps going to sleep, and I missed your message here, Kenny. What's with all the emotes? It else? Oh, that's top chat. I was looking at my other. Yeah, okay. Nice, all the emotes. I need to put in those commands are, we set those up and I think they're fun, but I don't have any like indication anywhere that says, you know, to use them. So I got some work to do to set things up a little bit more on the stream, but I also want to get some videos out, and I just haven't had the chance, I tell you. But it'll happen. I promise you, it's gonna happen. Y'all can hold me to it. Either way, next week we should be set again for Tuesday stream. So anyways, we're gonna call it. I'm not sure what we're gonna do next week. Always feel free to drop some comments below, and I do want to get back to a little bit of Tori stuff, but I think some of the things that I'm interested in exploring or doing might be best done with guests, so that might take a little bit more setting up, but they'll happen. Otherwise, I will see you next week, same time, same place, Tuesday. Have a good week, y'all. Bye.